Welcome back to Malamek Art. My name is Mikki, and today I have oil painting basics, what you're going to need to start. And I also got this in the mail just today, actually, so that I can see what they're like and review them. I haven't seen any reviews on the Arteza oil colors, so I thought I'd give it a shot. So why don't I just open them and see what's inside. So it comes with a plastic film on them. And the only thing that disappoints me with the Arteza oil is that these tubes are so tiny, you literally will go through them. And I don't think that they sell these singly, in singles. So, but what's cool about it is that you get quite a range for, I think this was $20. Oh, kind of squeaky and loud. So this tube size is kind of what I would expect from a paint tube, watercolor tube. So this would be a solid sized watercolor tube, which is 15 mil. And I think that these are 12. So, oh, and these little colors are actually taped on. Interesting. So these are considered the premium version. So I wanted to kind of swatch them out. But first, I'm actually going to put this aside. Okay, let's go through the colors first. So we got titanium white, yellow pale, lemon yellow, mid yellow, yellow ochre, orange, scarlet red, vermilion red, cad red, burnt sienna, crimson red, cobalt violet, Prussian blue, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, sky blue, light green, mid green, viridian green, burnt umber, lamp black, gold, and silver. So, and they come with two little plastic trays that nest in this cardboard here. So I will swatch these out, but right now I want to kind of go in some basics. So yeah, quite a good range. Side. So when you're starting out with oils, the first thing people do is they're like, oh, I want to paint this enormous, gigantic painting. And then when they start, they find out that that's a lot of surface to cover. And it gets intimidating, and then they abandon their painting. At least that's what I did the first time I tried an oil. So my suggestion is get a tiny one. This one has been in my art supplies for ages. And you can probably get these for like 50 cents to $1 each at any, like a hobby store. So start with this, know your subject. What do you want to paint first? Print out a picture of it or something, or have, your iPad. I usually have an iPad over here. This is an old iPad mini cast off for my son who doesn't use it anymore. So I'm using it for putting up a photo of something I want to paint and then just going at it here in watercolor. I have a easel for the oils, but for this demo I wanted to come over here with better lighting. So then you're going to buy paint. So I would start with something in a brand that is cheaper, but also gives you a variety of colors, like this company right here, Arteza, which is, they're doing a lot right now. A lot of artists are reviewing their stuff. So get them while they're hot. This set is, in the US, it's 19 something for, let's see, 24 tubes of paint. Next thing you're going to want to get is a big, huge tube of white, because that's literally your base for oils because this will definitely not be enough. You're going to need them to opacicize, if that's a word, any of these colors, so you'll get a different value in each of the colors. And then you're going to want to get a tube squeezer. This thing, I worked on this. This thing is old, and I actually squeezed quite a bit up to the top. I was really impressed. So this is a tube ringer, so find one of these. Well, a lot of these oil paints do have some sort of toxicity level to them, if you're worried about it. And the other thing is it's harder to get off your hand with these, and you'll end up having to use some kind of paint thinner to get it off your hands. So grab some disposable gloves. If you're allergic to latex, grab the vinyl. I found this at a hardware section in a department store, so they're easy to find, and I think it was only like $2 to get 12 gloves. The next thing you're going to find is some kind of palette, and you can get any kind of plastic palette like this, and you can cover them in wax paper and tape it on the back, and then you can use the top, and you can peel that off and do it again and use them. Any surface will do. You don't actually have to have a palette. You can get a dish. And then there's these disposable ones that I sometimes use also. That way you can just dispose of it and move on. You're going to need tons of paper towels. Now, if you're one of those people who do not like to waste a lot, get some old baby diapers. This is something that I use. I use these all the time. These are 100% cotton, and you can throw them in the wash and reuse them. For the oil ones, you may want to hand wash them just in case there's a blob of paint in there. But I actually use them over and over, and I cut them up into the pieces that are manageable for me. And any old hand towel, any sort of old sheet that you want to cut down will work as well. The other thing is brushes. I would start out with something that's a round, or they have a lot of these hog bristle brushes. You can get these in synthetic as well. You don't want the hog ones. And you're going to want to find some of these that are flats, and just find your main ones will be flats, and you're going to want to get rounds, which are it's this, but this isn't actually what I wanted to show you. Here it is. I just showed that to you. So these are two rounds, and these are flats or square, or whatever you want to call them. And you're going to need one for each color that you're using, because it's not easy to wash it off and then start over again because you're working with oils. So in that case, you're going to want to find something to rest these on. Probably any surface that doesn't have them roll off, but I use this thing. It's called the Steady Brush, and it keeps them separated, and I use this all the time. I mean, you could probably make this with cardboard. So there's an idea. But you're going to want a variety of brushes, at least 5. That's what I would suggest. At least 3 to 5, okay. And it's not a completely necessary item, but it's great to have if you're going to be painting with palette knives. To get yourself an assortment of palette knives, and your most basic one will look like this, and they're really easy to work with. And then the other ones, I mean, it depends on if you're painting with them or not, the different tips, and definitely try them all out, see how they mix and see how they apply. And the active word is just really go in and try each and every one of these supplies to see how they work for you. So when you're cleaning off your brushes, and this will be happening in the cleanup process after you're done, you're going to want to get something like this, and There's so much more to oil paints. So there's a bunch of mediums that you get. So I would get a Gamsol to put in here. So what happens is this Gamsol is lighter than the paint. So the paint will sink to the bottom, and then you'll have a clear layer on the top. So there's a bunch of paint at the bottom there. You can kind of see it here. I don't want to mix it up too much because I want to keep that top clean. But these containers have a little wire mesh inside that will clean off your brush at the end. And I'm smelling this, I think it was, I think I have a turpentine natural in here. Or, what is it? I think it's, yeah, it's odorless odorless terp, I think, something like that. So it's a little tiny bit of smell, but it really pays to get the terpenoid light is really a good one. Or this Gamsol, which you cannot smell at all, but I don't have a lot, so I don't want to waste it all on this. But here's a different one. This is the Silicoil that uses this little spring-loaded thing that does the same job. This is the Mona Lisa Artist Brush Cleaning Tank. Quite a mouthful. So they're both really good. When you're starting out with your canvas and it's sort of a rough surface and you want it's not been primed, or you want to smooth it, find some acrylic. I was doing a hand series that I used a lot of black. So I got some of this stuff and I primed my canvases with this so that it would be in the background. And if you want to do a better job, I would get some sort of acrylic or a gesso to do your background. This is actually a nicer brand, so I really wouldn't use it for the gessoing the back of this canvas. I would use actual gesso, which I don't have any right now. Must have used up some at some point. And then you have all of these mediums that you can use with your paints. And I could actually go into this another time, but these all sort of manipulate your paint to do different things. And I would actually go out and get the Gamblin medium set, which give you all of these. Actually, you get all of these in that set. It gives you a nice little information booklet on how all these work with your paints. But for now, if you're beginning, just don't worry about mediums. You're gonna need this Gamsol only, or a paint thinner of some sort, or odorless turpentine, which is, they're all the same thing. They thin the oil paints. Because when you work with oils, your first layer is going to be something that's been thinned, and then you'll work some more other agents into your paint, which are more oils. And when you're working with oil painting, you're going to want to work from lean to fat, and that is the ratio. So if you work with fat to lean, then you'll get cracking paint on the top layer, and you don't want that. You want it to be a nice steady underlayer and fat overlayer. The fatter overlayers do take longer to dry, so it's actually beneficial for you to get the fast drying layers done quick. So I think that's everything I have for the basics. So when you're starting out, oops, that's not where my paints are. It's over here. So when you get something like this and it's a cheaper version and just want to try them out, then that's what you really should do. You should try them out. Get a sheet of non-porous paper. You can even get watercolor paper and prime it with that acrylic paint that I was showing you. Just go paint it over and let it dry, or use a hair dryer and dry that paint. Then you have a non-porous surface. And then I would I would squeeze out a little bit of these onto your page just to see what they are like, and then you can use all of your tools and your mediums, just try to play with them. You'll understand why you need the white. You'll be able to use everything. So this is your first toe step into the water of oil painting. Definitely do little dots of all of these colors and mix them and see how they react with each other, because that's how you're going to know how you're going to press on with this medium. And then when you're feeling comfortable and you want to just start painting, then, you know, either start over with an actual palette and do a teeny little painting, and then that will give you the courage to go on to do bigger projects. So I think that was a really long-winded mouthful there. So I think I'm done with my jabber jawing, and I will do a little swatch test of these oil paints and then do a little review of them at the end. So, okay, I'll see you then. Hi, so I have some final thoughts here. I was able to use this brush for most of the swatching because I used the Yamsol to add some thinner to the brush, and I was able to wipe it off up until I got to the phthalo green, which overpowers anything that it touches. So I'm glad I got to it last. I did have a hard time getting the gold to stick because that green was overpowering it, but that gold does shine, and the silver is more of an opal than it is a silver. So I think that these paints will be just fine for anyone, beginner, or see, this green is still there. I'm gonna have to actually clean it up. So when you're done with everything that you're doing, you're done with your painting, or as much as you can. Sometimes with oils you have to wait for a layer to dry. You take your brushes and you just swish them in here until you feel that it is absolutely clean. And sometimes you really can't with this green because it'll dye your fibers of your brushes, so you really don't know if it's clean or not. But in that instance, just wipe it off and bring it to the sink and use soap and water and really give it a good scrub. So I use this one for the whites and the golds and the silver. And same with this one. Make sure you bring them to the sink and wash it as well. And with your palette knives, it's pretty much the same process, but if you have any gunk left on there, find a way to save your paint. You could use a plastic wrap and wrap everything and put it in the freezer, or if it's not much, you can just wipe it off and make sure there's some thinner on that whatever you're wiping that off on, so it can get all the dried stuff off too. Some dried stuff on there. So you see why it's kind of necessary to wear gloves. You just will get really messy. If you don't care, then go be my guest and go for it with no gloves. But for the swatching part, I have actually no problems with this paint. This paint's actually pretty good. And they say that these are the professional range, and the pigments on each of the tubes are stated, and there are a lot of them are single pigments. Best way to do it is peel off one glove and then grab it and then peel off the other and pull everything inside, and then you have nothing touching you anymore, and that goes in the garbage. But for these, the pigments are all pretty much single pigments up until like you get these mixes of sky blue. The greens are both mixes. But if I want pointing out just single pigments, it would be the gold, the black, lamp black, there's PBK 11. More or less than I thought. So the ultramarine, the lemon yellow, the mid yellow, yellow ochre, the orange yellow, the scarlet red, the vermilion red's PR4, cad red is PR108, and the others are mixes. So you got quite a good range, and enough of them that you can use for mixing. They don't give you a lot of titanium white, which is a shame. But, so yeah, I would definitely give them a try, and if you're a beginner, definitely give them a try. Well, thanks for joining me for this intro oil basics vid, and I will see you in the next one.